people will ask me, kind of what it's like to be intuitive. The first thing that I would say is it's really not as cool as people think. I think kind of like Hollywood and TV and movies and just different kind of stereotypes and perceptions that we have of people who are intuitive or psychic. You get this picture in your head. If you close your eyes right now and I said picture a psychic, there's a very clear vision of something that comes through for you. And I think the perception of things is not necessarily the reality. So when people meet me, sometimes they're like, oh, that's so cool, it's so great, it's so this, it's so that. And I'm like, yeah, it's actually kind of heavy. Someone asked me once if I would trade what I could do to just be normal. And I kind of didn't even really have to think about it. I was like, no, because for all of the other stuff that I do deal with, being able to help people in the way that I've been able to do that really makes me feel good. And I really wouldn't trade that. Some of the things that are hard, you probably know, well, what's so hard? This seems like really cool, right? Well, it's really scary when shit kind of moves around your bedroom in the middle of the night, when doors pop open and lights turn on and off and stuff like that. Like, I know how to handle it, but it doesn't mean that it's not still a little bit freaky, right? Sometimes having weird nightmares where energies and stuff are coming in and kind of coming at you, that can be scary. If somebody's working magic against you, yeah, that can be really heavy to have to deal with that. That's not super cool or fun. Sometimes it can be really difficult when you're interacting with people, because sometimes my intuitive abilities, I'll pick up on how somebody's feeling and what they're saying is not matching how they're feeling, or somebody's pretending to be cool with me, but I've made them nervous or scared because maybe I've told them about my abilities and my intuition, and you can feel them shift, but those ideas they have in their head are causing these reactions. So sometimes things like that can be really difficult for me. Sometimes too, knowing if something bad's going to happen, or a difficult situation or something that pops up in my life that I have to go through that I don't want to go through. Sometimes knowing that ahead of time and knowing that's going to happen and having to decide to go through with it anyway because that's the path or those are the lessons I need to learn. God, that can be really hard. Can you imagine? Like say for example, you met this really great guy, you thought he was really amazing, you're super excited about him, and then you get this intuitive hit that it's only going to last like 6 months or a year, whatever. And it's like, well, do you still continue with that anyway? Now you're caught in this weird place. So sometimes it can be very hard. Also too, something with energy work for me, in the palms of my hands, I will get a lot of sharp pain and stuff. And that tells me that the energy is moving. I don't know if that's how anyone else works. That's how it works for me. But it's that where the energy is moving or being released, and it is uncomfortable. It does not feel good, but that is something that happens. Sometimes too, people's energy can make me physically ill. Like I've thrown up before, I've gotten headaches. There's different things that happen. It's not as cool as people think it is. The second thing that I think is always really fascinating is people think that I always have the answers, right? Being intuitive, or, people like to call it psychic. They think I have all the answers. My thing, I'm not here to give you the winning lottery numbers, guess your kids' names. Like, that's not what I do. When you get intuition, some people do get more specific things like that. That's not how I work particularly, but I get enough information about things so that we can piece things together, or sometimes too, spirit will just download information to me that I don't understand. It sounds weird or it's disconnect or whatever. And when I share it, the person goes, oh, I understand that completely. Right? They don't even tell me what's going on, but they just acknowledge that they understand. And I'm like, okay. So sometimes having to make sense of really weird and discombobulated things, or to have to even say very strange words to people or phrases or information, and you feel very dumb. You're like, oh God, I have to say this. And someone goes, oh yeah, that was my dad's nickname, or that's a thing that happened. And I'm like, okay. Right? So sometimes it's very uncomfortable and strange to have to do that. Not having all the answers, not being able to see everything completely can make it difficult sometimes when you are trying to do your job or help people. Something else that falls in this range as well is that sometimes spirit doesn't want to give you the answer because it's going to take you off track if you have that information, right? You'll make different choices that bring you out of alignment. So sometimes people will get angry with me or upset with me because I don't have the answer. And I'm like, well, spirit is telling me that I can't tell you, because it will put you in a worse place. And I don't want to do that. So that can be also something that can be really challenging about having these abilities. The third thing is sometimes it's really hard to connect with people who make you feel understood and supported, because I am very well aware that the way that I function in the world is not normal. Most of the population is still asleep. They haven't embraced their gifts. They haven't studied, or they just don't care. Or that's not an area they want to go down. So I'm kind of square peg, round hole situation. So when I look for my friends, it's really important to me that You don't have to completely get everything that I'm doing, but just the acceptingness and the open-mindedness really goes a long way for me. And just the support, sometimes I will be in a certain place and a wave of energy will hit me and I will feel dizzy, I will feel sick. Sometimes I feel like I can't move out of a space because it's so dense in there. So, if I know I'm walking to a space ahead of time, I will prep my friends. Or if I'm in a space where I say, hey, I really need, you got to get me out of here now. I can't move. And then really having the understanding of what's going on with me energetically and having them grab my arm or physically pull or move me or help me in whatever way that I need is really amazing. Because I could say that to a normal person and they'd be like, well, what? I don't understand. I'd be sitting there freaking out or in distress because they don't know how to help me. And so those are things I think it can be really difficult being on this side of the fence sometimes. So, trying to find people that really are resonating with who I am and what I'm doing is really important. The next thing that was always hilarious to me, people are so afraid of me because they think that I can read their mind, right? The second I say intuitive, psychic, tarot, energy healing, anything, they go, right? And sometimes some really weird things will happen. I will notice people's energy start turning black, right? Like from head to toe, just everything blacks out, or they shut themselves down and close themselves off and their energy shifts, right? And it changes. And I always think that's funny because I know some people can do that. It's not something in my community that I've seen that's a very common thing. Like we don't all read minds. It's not like that Mel Gibson movie, What Women Want, right? Where he could automatically hear everybody. It's not like that, right? A lot of times we just get energy or vibrations or feelings or moods or things. But it's not something we're trying to open your medicine cabinet door and look in and find out all these things about you. I would rather just get to know you on a regular human being basis and connect with you that way. And if I pick other stuff up, that's just kind of what I'm doing. But I'm not going to be nosy or intrusive about it because I really feel like there's a lot of lines and boundaries spiritually as well as physically, right? I'm not coming over to your house, looking in your medicine cabinet, eating all your food, and putting on your underwear. That's not happening. That's rude, right? And in the spiritual community, there are things like that that are deemed rude as well. So, and a lot of people just don't understand that. So you do get some very interesting responses and reactions to things. Something that's really hard for me, and I think this is the hardest one, is when people become very frightened of me. You can look at me. I'm not a scary person. You've seen my videos. I'm not particularly terrifying in any way, shape, or form. But what I do see is that people are very scared of what they don't understand. And because they are drawing from a knowledge base of, movies, media, preconceived, beliefs and notions about different things. I mean, Halloween's got a whole bunch of stuff in there that's made to spiritual people look a certain way. And when you can do something that seems out of place to somebody, or you can really shock somebody because you are tapped in or you are in tune and they are not, it's so hard for them to understand how that's happening because it's not something that they can do, right? And it really freaks people out. And so for me, I feel like that's really a disheartening experience because it usually comes with a pretty negative reaction and a pretty disproportionate reaction. Sometimes I get lucky and someone is willing to have a conversation with me and I can dispel some of that and then they become interested and curious. And it's really nice to see that fear level go down. But some people are just like, no, back away. I've been kicked out of places before because I was reading tarot cards and it freaked people out and they scream horrible things at me. It's just a response of where the other person is at. So sometimes things like that can be difficult, and you may experience that as somebody who is intuitive. And the last thing I would say is there's also within that fear response, there's another response over here next door, and it's kind of a combative response. And it's very strange. I've been in places before, situations where people are just like, oh, so, what do you do? And I'm a professional tarot card reader. And the response is, well, I don't want to know. Right? Or I don't believe in that, or don't tell me anything. And I'm not sure what experience they've had before, or if this is a fear-based reaction, but I'm not just going to say I'm a tarot reader and then just read your stuff without permission, right? If I was picking up something that was important or serious or dangerous or, imperative or something like that, yeah, I might ask if, hey, I've got this piece of information, are you open to it? But I don't really force what I do on other people. But if you ever see me out in public, I'm not somebody that gives you unsolicited advice or free readings. So, you don't have to freak out like that on me, but I understand if you've had a bad experience before and that's something that's happened. So those are just some different things that have experienced. They're things that I've experienced kind of more frequently. Those are the ones that kind of come up to the surface. So I just wanted to share with you guys too, one, so that you have a better understanding, especially if you are not in the magical world or spiritual world yet, or you're just kind of getting your feet wet, of some different realities from this side of the fence. And also, too, if this is something you're experiencing, just so that you know you're not alone, because some of these situations can be jarring, some can be frustrating, some can be overwhelming or difficult to deal with. And sometimes it's nice to know that it's not just you. So that's everything I have for you today. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I hope you have an absolutely beautiful day.